Hey, thanks for clicking on my video for how to remember the pentatonic, diatonic, or CAGED boxes. I'm a self-taught musician, so if I say anything or when I say anything that's not musically correct, I apologize in advance. All right, so we're looking at the guitar fretboard. It's numbered from 1 to 7 according to the diatonic scale. The diatonic scale is just a 7-note scale, which is a subset of the 12-note chromatic scale. It follows a pattern from 1 to 7 of a whole note or a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and then half step back to root. And the pentatonic scale is just a subset of the diatonic scale, omitting notes 4 and 7. So it looks like this. And the minor diatonic and pentatonic scale starts on the sixth note of their respective major scales. So this is the major scale. So the minor scale, just the numbers would shift. So the 6 becomes a 1, and the counting starts from there. Okay, so I wanted to make, so that's just kind of a intro to these numbers and what they all mean. And then, so I wanted to make some sort of a reminder about each box. So you can see you have E, D, C, CAGED boxes, and there's those little dots to represent, like, where how the boxes are framed. But in each one of those boxes, I mean, that's a lot of numbers and patterns. So how do you remember all that? So um, okay, well, starting from the left side, I said let's number the strings from 6 to 1. So the bottom number is 6, the low E string, and the 1 is the high E string. And then what else? Then I started to look at the patterns. There are obviously patterns here. See, it's easier to remember things by patterns. So I noticed that each of the boxes can be described by 3 sets of repeating patterns, which I described as L for left. So that's um, uh, 2 notes to the left of a single note. R for right, or 2 notes to the right of a single note. And M for middle, or 2 notes with a space in the middle. I noticed that all over the fretboard, um, on strings 6 through 2, wherever you see a left pattern, you on 2 consecutive strings, it's immediately followed by the right pattern on 2 consecutive strings. And then it's immediately followed by the middle pattern on the next string. And then this pattern repeats again, left, right, middle, left, right, middle. And remembering that string 1 is just a mirror of string 6. So you see this again. So left, right, middle, then left, and then right. And then the next box starts on right, middle, left. And the next box starts on middle, left, right, middle. And then where does G starts? Right, middle, left, and what else? Oh, and then I noticed that the the uh, the 2 notes together, the 7 and the 1, are a pattern. It's always the left 7 on the left and the 1 on the right. And then I noticed that the 3 and the 4 are always a 3 on the left and the 4 on the right, and they're always on top of the 7 and the 1. So they're usually lined right up, except for like on the G box. You can see that they're offset, but everybody else is right on top of each other. And then the middle is always 5 and a 6, with the 5 on the left, 6 on the right, with the space in the middle. So from here, I came up with a simple word for each box to remember these patterns. And I'll explain it in more detail as I go. So you get the least amount of, the shortest amount of, the least amount of information in my reminder. I chose lines 6, 5, and 2 to build up some sort of a mnemonic. And I came up with E2LM for the E box, DRMR for the D box, CLRL for the C box, AMLR for the A box, and G2RL for the G box. And I'll explain what that means. But I just wanted to show you right away um, what this looks like, and then I'll break it down. It's not that hard to remember actually. So I remember these things by just a simple word. So E2LM is elm. DRMR is dreamer. CLRL is clear L. AMLR is MLR, and G2RL is girl. And you notice that the elm and girl have the repeating patterns on lines 6 and 5, and Dreamer and Clear L have repeating patterns on lines 1 and 2. Um, okay, so next, so let's take a look at closer look at each box. Just a note about these boxes: each shape in the CAGED system is called the C, A, G, E, or D box because of the first shape in the sequence of open position chord shapes used to play any major or minor chord. So for example, the C box you can see starting on string 5. Um, you can see the 1, and then string 4 you see the 3 note, and then string 2 you see the 1 note. So it's like a C chord, and then the A chord you can see on the far right 5-1-3 pattern for an A chord. And then for the G chord, you can see on the right the 1-3-1 for a G chord. And the other notes, I mean, make the rest of the chord if you were to play like a cowboy chord. And then here's an E chord. So on the far right, 5-1-3 is the E shape. And then for the D shape, you can see at the top on the right the 3-1-5 pattern. Oh, got a little ahead of myself. So moving these boxes, let me just step back for a second. Um, yep, so moving these boxes up and down the neck allows you to play in any key without having to learn the notes for that key, which is pretty cool. So there's lots of videos on YouTube that explain um, all of this in greater detail. So I encourage you to check those out if you haven't already. So starting with the E-shaped box, the first letter of as you can see at the top, is E for the E box. Excuse me. And then the first 2 strings have the uh, the LL or 2L pattern. So L and L, and uh, then on string 2 is the middle pattern. So that gives us ELLM. And I need to remember the pattern on the second string for when I'm playing the notes in the opposite direction, because from the first string to the second string, it isn't quite following. It doesn't always follow that left, 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 right, right, middle pattern. Although here it kind of does left, left, right, right, middle, left, it goes left again, but it's not consistent all the way across for all the boxes. All right, so anyway, that's the first one. It's Elm. And oh, I left enough time on each of these images so that you can do a quick screen grab if you want to of the filled in and the blank boxes. So I found it very helpful to keep the images of these boxes in a note app on my phone so that I can, just actually use the blank images to fill in the notes, like with the dots at first, and then just erase it and keep repeating it till I have it committed to memory. Um, so you first start with dots, and um, then with the diatonic scale to 1 to 7, and then with the pentatonic scale, just taking out the 4s and the 7s, and then eventually you want to remember like where your root notes are, and for the major scale, and where the root notes are for the minor scale, because it's the same scale. It's just where you start in a major on the minor scale. You start on 6th note of the major scale, but it's the same scale in that box, or actually or across the entire fretboard. All right, so let's see. Oh, there you go. And also note that at the bottom where you have on the major, if you're using the major scale, it's referred to as box 1 for the E box, circled in red, and there's also a red circle around the number 1 um, for each of the um, root notes. Oh, going backwards. There you go. For each of the root notes in the scale, um, and then there's a 6 around the minor note. So let me go back to, yeah, at the bottom. So where it says E2, that's for E1 is for the major scale. E2 is the minor scale. Just a reminder of how the boxes are numbered and for each box shape. What else? Oh, and added some fret markers, numbers for familiarity. But as you already may know, these scales can be moved up and down the fretboard, so it really doesn't matter as far as learning or in remembering the CAGED system. But just they're familiar, so I threw them on there. Okay, what else? So next is the D shape. The first letter is D, and you can see the D pattern. If you were playing like your cowboy chords. Let's see. So the first string has the right pattern, and since strings 6 and 5 are not the double L, it will start with the 3/4 pattern. This is just the top of the double left pattern, or the double right pattern, and then the next is the middle pattern, and then the second string is the right pattern. So this gives us DMR, DRMR, or Dreamer. And then it repeats at the top. The first string and the sixth string mirror each other. And here's the blank pattern if you want to grab that. All right, so the next box is the C shape. So the first letter is C. You can see the C pattern. You can see that where the root notes are and where the minor roots are. All right, so first string has the pattern L, and since strings 6 and 5 are not the double L or R, it'll start with the 3/4 pattern, just like the Dreamer pattern, but opposite. And then again, this is just the top part of the double pattern. So the fifth string is the right pattern, and then the second string is the L pattern. So I call this CLRL. And here's the blank pattern if you want to do a screen grab for that. And then the next one is the A pattern, so AMLR. You can see the A pattern. You can see the roots and where the roots for the major and minor chords. And so the first letter is A. The sixth string has the middle pattern. Then click. Oh, then following the left, left, right, right, middle pattern. So the fifth string is a left, and then again, this is just sorry. So then the second string is the right pattern. So that's A, M, L, and R. All right, and then the last one is, oh, sorry. And here's the blank, the A pattern, or if you want to do a screen grab. And then the last one is the G shape. So you can see the G chord. You see the roots for the major and minor chords, the 1 and the 6. All right, so the first letter in the mnemonic is G, so the G box. And then the first few strings have the right pattern, or RR, so 2 rights. And then the second string, string 2, has the left pattern. So remember the pattern on the second string for when I'm reading the notes in the opposite direction from strings 1 to 6. And I remember it says as girl. All right, what do I have here? So I thought it might be helpful to note the general shape of each caged box. Oh, hold on, sorry. And here's a screen grab for G again. Okay, so I thought it might be helpful to note the general shape of each caged box. So the E shape is kind of like a rectangle. D shape is almost perfectly symmetrical with 2 notes hanging out on the left on strings 3 and 4, and string 5 is missing a note to be symmetrical with string 2. The C shape is also shaped like a rectangle. Shape A is kind of reminds me of the D shape, kind of symmetrical about strings 3 and 4, except that string 3 uh, is a left pattern and string 4 is a right pattern. Um, and there's a non-symmetric note on the left of string 5 and the right on string 2. So I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the D pattern, but it's kind of lopsided. What else? And then the G shape is kind of like a K shape or an R shape with the left edge on a row, except for one note that sticks out on the left uh, on string 3. Okay, so another way to look at this, to recap, is uh, the G shape isn't uh, kind of a K or an R with a note hanging out on the left side. E and C are kind of like rectangles, and D and A are almost symmetrical with notes hanging out on strings 3 and 4. D is missing a note on string 5, and A has some extra notes on strings 5 and 2, and strings 3 and 4 follows a single left-right pattern. So it's maybe that's confusing. I don't know. I said I you can find other patterns if they're helpful to you, but this is kind of what worked for me. It's kind of sharing it. So let's see what else. Note that for the pentatonic boxes, C, G, and D, the middle pattern for chromatic notes 5 and 6. Oh, uh, what is this? My notes went crazy. Let's see, notes. I think that's it. Yeah, so anyway, this was the kind of a method that I came up with to help remember what these boxes are and how to recall them. Because it's just too much to memorize. But if you have, breadcrumbs that can help you remember what these are, I found it really helpful to kind of build a memory map. I mean, ultimately, y when you do this enough, you don't need this anymore. You'll just say it, but it helps you build up a way to get there, how to get to the point where you just know it. And yeah, it's kind of the whole point. So eventually you won't need this anymore, but it's a kind of a stepping stone to help you get there. So I hope this helps. And if it helped you, let me know what you thought. You can tell me how bad my the recording was and all the mistakes that I made. And maybe share it with somebody. Maybe if it helped you, I that's really all I wanted to do. The reason why I wanted to create this to explain it to myself and to explain it to other people because I thought it was helpful. So anyway, that's it. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye.